How's it going, everyone? It is Only here. Welcome back to another video as always. So it's been a couple days since E3's big old blowout, at least in terms of the press conferences, and now for the past couple days it's been chaotic everywhere. We've been seeing gameplay interviews, we've been seeing new footage of games like Tomb Raider, everything's kind of been going crazy, and I figured I'd take the time, now that it has all dialed down, to talk about Sony's press conference. I did EA's and I did Microsoft, so I figured it was only due time until I did PlayStation. So now that I've slept on it a couple nights now, and I've kind of thought it through, this is what I thought. So I guess we could start off with how they started it. Obviously, Sony this year had a very different message to convey and a very different format of conveying that. We all saw the church that they started out with, all the influencers, all the press. They all started in like a specifically built church just for the first game that they showed off, which was obviously The Last of Us Part 2. The game looked pretty great. We saw the 11-minute gameplay demo of Ellie. They played with time a little bit. It was pretty interesting. Naughty Dog always keeps us guessing what we're seeing. Whatever we think we're going to see next of their game, they always kind of, mess with fans about what we're seeing. And we get little bits of pieces of like the puzzle, so yeah, we saw finally gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2. I've noticed online that there seems to be pretty much two camps. I guess the first camp includes people that like the game pretty much, and then the other half of the people thought it looked like too familiar to Last of Us Part 2, and I can kind of see that. To me, I didn't think it did anything groundbreaking, but it's to me what I expected from Part 2, what I wanted from Part 2. They fixed the melee system, or at least they're working on it, and now that we saw Ellie, when she was fighting those two people in the beginning of the demo, she kind of dodged around, and actually throughout the whole entire demo, she actually used that, so melee system seems to be overhauled. If you guys remember the original Last of Us back in 2013, if you got into any melee fight at all, pretty much it'd be really clunky. If you had like a baseball bat or like a plank, you just pretty much spam square and like beat the crap out of the enemy ahead of you. But now there is kind of like a little bit more depth to like the cool combat system, and overall makes it less clunky in my opinion, because that was ultimately like the most I guess frustrating part about the original Last of Us, at least when you got into like close quarters melee combat. So it looks pretty promising. Obviously what we saw, you can go pro now. It seems like a little bit of greater depth in how you actually play the game and actually control around the environment, so that's pretty cool. Looking forward to seeing more of that game. That was definitely the highlight of my conference alongside Resident Evil 2, so definitely the highlight there. The next part is kind of the very annoying part of the press conference and the most baffling to me. I don't know why Sony thought it was a good idea to have everybody in the church, because they had to move everybody after the first game over to the main stage. And that took about like 15 minutes. I think we had like 15 minutes of just Sid Schumann, and they interviewed Sean Layden, and they showed off more of like third-party stuff. But I'm not going to be even surprised at all if a lot of people tuned out then. They made us wait 15 minutes until they actually started the conference again. I think it was like 6:30 my time. It was like half an hour into the actual briefing that we finally got another game that was not Last of Us. So yeah, it was a very weird format. Ghost of Tsushima, let's talk about that. Sucker Punch hasn't made a game in 4.5 years since Second Son. In about 4 years since the second, what was it? Infamous Second Light? No, it was the DLC with Fetch. First Light, there we go. So yeah, it's been quite a bit of time since Second Son and First Light, and Sucker Punch finally showed us gameplay of their next project, Ghost of Tsushima. If you remember, we got a teaser trailer back in, I believe it was October, back at Paris Games Week. The game looks pretty good. The thing that stands out about Ghost of Tsushima is pretty much it's the setting and the combat in a way. It doesn't have that very realistic, combat that we've seen with like Last of Us, and just overall, what we see from Sony's first party. It feels very arcadey in a way. And it also feels, very different in terms of its setting and its tone, and looking forward to seeing more of that game. What they showed off looked pretty cool. It didn't impress me the most. I think Last of Us definitely did for me, at least, because, what we saw was promising. But, Ghost of Tsushima, I think, interests me the most. I want to see more. We got a lot of questions answered. If you guys remember back at Paris Games Week, I was kind of questioning, is this going to be like Second Son, where you're fast, or I guess in general, the Infamous series. Samurai's had a lot of armor, and it kind of answered a lot of those questions about how this game's going to be kind of different and how it's going to be kind of controlled. And we didn't get any dates at this press conference at all, so we don't know when any of these games are hitting, but I think Ghost of Tsushima is definitely a 2019 lock for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like second half possibly, but I'm hoping it's going to be like April or May. I guess the two left are Spider-Man and Death Stranding, so I'll talk about Death Stranding first, and I'll talk about Spider-Man. Death Stranding, to me, I thought we were going to get raw gameplay, kind of like what we got for Last of Us. That's exactly what I was expecting for Death Stranding. We did end up getting that. We got like another long trailer, and it actually did include gameplay this time. I'm just very confused with Death Stranding, which is not surprising considering everything we've gotten, in the past couple years. But not really that confused. To me, it's like, this game, like, I thought we were all expecting gameplay at this point. It's kind of annoying to just get like kind of trailers after trailers. It's not a hit at the game because of that, but it would be nice to actually get some raw footage of the game and how it's playing. You know, what we saw of the gameplay snippets that we did see in that trailer did kind of, you know, reminiscence of kind of like a walking sim, which is kind of annoying or weird. The game still looks really beautiful and it looks pretty interesting. It looks very different. It's gonna be weird to like just load up the game and just be like, okay, we're gonna walk around this planet. We did gonna get teases of like combat, or at least, you know, intense scenarios at the very end of the trailer. They had like a reveal of like a character that turned around at the very end, a woman. I believe that's Sam's wife or his loved one that died, because if you did not notice, you know, there's a Polaroid throughout the whole entire trailer, kind of like teasing his past life. Yeah, the game looks really weird. I mean, I guess that's Kojima for you. Hopefully, you know, it will impress me a little bit more in the future. I mean, to me, that didn't really look the most promising to me. Or at least, you know, Death Stranding to me was at least in the top 1 or 2 at PlayStation, but now it's kind of sinking to like 3 or 4. Yeah, I think I was intrigued as much as Last of Us, but now it's kind of falling below the ranks. Very much still interested in the game, just I don't think that showing was really the strongest. And Spider-Man, you know, Spider-Man, I'm already sold on Spider-Man. It was more of the same that we've already seen from like Game Informer and stuff, except this time it was kind of like a, besides the city part, kind of like a main story focused mission, and they revealed a lot of cool villains because, you know, it was a whole jailbreak out scene. It was pretty cool. A lot different from what we've seen from like other Spider-Man footages at nighttime. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna play the game in 3 months, so I guess 2.5 months at this point, so, you know, nothing really needs to be shown there for me personally, but, you know, Spider-Man's like the biggest known entity they have right now in terms of their exclusive lineup, so it kind of made sense to show it and give it one last showing. And yeah, the game looks really good. I don't know why they ended on Spider-Man. Honestly, they ended it off with Spider-Man like 2 times in a row. I think they should have just scrapped the whole church thing and just ended with The Last of Us, because I think that looked the most promising. Other like missing things, I want to say Dreams. Like, where the heck is that game? Like, they keep saying beta is coming later this year, so now that's making me think we're not going to get an actual release this year. I'm worried about Dreams, you know, as the rumors of next generation consoles coming sooner and sooner. You know, I want to be able to play this game before we actually have to upgrade. So, yeah, it's kind of really frustrating that we're kind of getting no news on Media Molecule's front, and I'm not even expecting it to come out before Days Gone, so that's already talking about next year, and that's just very scary, because if you guys remember, this is the game that was pretty much announced, quote-unquote, with, you know, the PS4, you know, it's at the original February event with the whole Move controllers and the puppets. Yeah, we've known about this game for a while now, and I just really want to play it. So I guess with that being said, we covered all 4 parties, you know, what I expected and what I got from the game. Obviously, you know, Last of Us was pretty much the only one that kind of improved what I expected. I think Ghost kind of like remained same. I mean, I still need to see more to actually like convince me a little bit more in that game. But Death Stranding kind of sunk below those expectations, and Spider-Man, I already know I'm gonna get Spider-Man. Spider-Man just looks like really fun. It's Spider-Man. But yeah, let's talk about the surprises. Capcom, man, they saved E3 this year for me. Devil May Cry 5, and we got Resident Evil 2 Remake with an actual date, January. That's our traditional January game. I thought it was going to be DMC 5 this year. Seems like we're going to get DMC 5 spring next year, and instead we get the January Capcom game in the form of Resident Evil 2 Remake, which looks really good, mind you. You know, they kind of teased it as like a VR game in the beginning with the rat, and then they faded to Leon shooting the zombie. That's awesome. Raccoon City's back. I can't wait for that game, honestly. Other games that they showed off in terms of the third-party front was Control from Remedy. I honestly forgot that Remedy was even going to be here. They did announce it a little while ago that they were going to be at E3 this year, and they showed off Control. It kind of looks like, you know, Quantum Break 2, just as like a female protagonist this time. I heard they did reveal like actual footage, like raw footage of the game, so I do need to actually look up online where that is. And yeah, it kind of looks like Quantum Break 2, but I'm hearing the game's pretty good, so that's cool. And then the other one was like Neo 2, I believe, and then they showed off like a third Kingdom Hearts trailer, which Jack Sparrow's in it. You know, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I guess that was pretty much the sum of the E3 conference from Sony this year. You know, it's a very, you know, grounded, conservative take. I mean, I guess that's what they're doing. You know, we've been hearing that next generation consoles are on the rise. Obviously, these games that we're seeing are kind of some of the last. There was that article that said, you know, Shuhei said that there's more PS4 exclusives in development. I mean, I think that's obvious. You know, these aren't the final games, but they are really kind of final. I think maybe we'll get one more big one, maybe in the form of, you know, Ready at Dawn's new game if they're working with Sony, or somebody along the side. And of course, we'll get like our B tier exclusives like Knack and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be kind of weird to see in the next year or two, because very well possibly this time next year we'll be hearing about PS5 and Xbox too. So gonna be interesting times ahead. I won't do a rating. I'll probably just compare it to other conferences. I'll probably say Sony's is probably like below Microsoft's and below, I'd say probably second, honestly. If it, you know, Resident Evil 2 and Last of Us really saved it for me. And then I'd say, yeah, I think it's like the second best conference, but that's not really saying much because this year, honestly, E3 was alright. You know, it's just kind of that weird part. I think Microsoft was like the only clear winner here. They kind of knocked it out of the park. I don't really like talking about who wins E3 because ultimately, you know, people like different games from different conferences. Like, I like Dying Light 2 from Xbox, and I also was really intrigued by Gears 5 and Halo Infinite. But at the same time, I can appreciate things like, you know, Ghost of Tsushima, and I can appreciate things like Super Smash Bros. Coming this December, you know? It's a mixed bag, but honestly, yeah, that's my thoughts on Sony's E3 press conference. I was kind of just, I'd say, satisfied with it. You know, Last of Us looked really good. I can't wait for that game, honestly. Taking place 5 years after the original. I could talk about that all day long, and in fact, I'll probably do a video talking about the gameplay we saw more in depth, so probably expect that within the next couple days. I'll probably get on that because there's been a lot of details coming from like their panel and everything. There's a lot to discuss, but yeah, of course, my opinion is my opinion at the end of the day. Leave yours in the comments down below as always, and I'll be continuing this discussion in the next video. I'll see you guys there. Take care.